Out of my nuts and bolts, I have this slot head brass screw and this steel washer. And out of these two parts, I'm going to make a little short camera bolt. Well, I've returned home with my 3D printed parts. Haven't washed that off yet. It's time to try them out on here. Now I know the holes are a little bit undersized. A 5mm fastener goes in there. And I have a ream. I'm missing a drill bit. I have a ream here that's 195, which should be close fit. Let's use that to straighten these out. Still a little tight. That fits nicely. Put some radial load on that. Must have just been a burr. We're fitting good now. Look, that little thumb screw's dropped easily. There's our broken part. Here's my printed part. That fits on there nicely. I would much rather be using this fastener here, but the problem I have is the threads, or the bolt, is up in here about 3mm. There's not quite enough threads left over to reach the fastener. So that means I need a longer fastener, which I have here. But notice this fastener that came out is special. It's got kind of an oval head, which I'm not sure if that's intentional or not, but it's got a couple of flats on it. So I'm going to take a file to this standard fastener that's another 5mm longer and see if I can simulate that shape. More of you have a drill press than a lathe, so let's do this on a drill press. Another reason why a drill press is an important tool in your shop. And we note that this fastener has a lot of taper on the head. It tapers almost to the shaft. We'll just take our time with this operation. I'm going just a bit fast. We're going on the slowest speed now. When I get this little tripod done, it'll be handy for putting on this workbench. We'll do a trial fit. Just eyeballing this angle, probably got it a little too steep. And we're going in there farther. I think I need to take some diameter off of it now. About 312. Sitting at about 324. Probably still a little big, but we'll give it a try. Ooh, drops right in there. Beautiful. So now we got to put the flats on it. You see that flat, about how far from the head it is. And I think I need to make that just a little deeper. I'm just barely holding it with the vise. And we'll do the other side. Let's see if I can turn this right over. Reasonably parallel. Let's give this a go. So my lip here is catching on the step before we get to the flats. So these flats are 243. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how to measure this. These flats are 287, so I'm clearly not getting down deep enough. File on. Yeah, I've got to take these flats down quite a bit more. Another 22 thousandths to go. 242. Awesome. We should have some engagement now. We do not have engagement. Well, I'm just not having any success. Alright, what I've determined is it's the ovality of the head of this fastener that stops it from turning, not these flats. These flats are possibly from whatever machine squashed it. I'm getting tempted to hit this with a hammer on an anvil. Let's see what happens. I think that's what I'm going to do. So this is the first step of making all the blood squirt out of your fingers. I'm angling the hammer away just a little bit. I don't know if I made the head any wider. Let me try it out. Yes, I'm starting to get some engagement. Needs to go a little farther. Let's go try it again. There we go. I think I'm going to grind the burr off the end of it. Yeah, it doesn't want to go that way. It's like the ovality is this way. There we go. Perfect. Now I have to make the fastener, the 1/4-20 fastener that will retain itself in this thin plate and thread into the camera, or a camera mount. Out of my nuts and bolts, I have this slot head brass screw and this steel washer. And out of these two parts, I'm going to make a little short camera bolt. All cameras and camera mounts are threaded 1/4-20, or most of them are. But I'm going to make a wing stud out of these two parts. And here's how to do it. You think that washer might be hot? Got to be very cautious. What do you think, huh? Wait till they get a load of me. Batman line. What do you think? We're getting there. We've got to shorten this thing and notch it now. Well, I'm going to keep with our theme. I'm going to finish this by machining it on the drill press. I have to machine the threads away up about 3/16 of an inch, or 5 millimeters. A little tricky holding that thickness. Just thinking out loud here. Too thick. Still too thick. There we go. About 200 is what I want. If I can use this drill bit, see if I can do this without letting all the blood out of my body. Use this drill bit to space the file. Use this drill bit to space the file into the right position. This is how you can machine on your drill press. I'll move this drill bit down to a section of the file that's not so choked up. I could put a washer on here too. See what we're getting. Yeah, we're getting that step that I want. It's 214, 215. It's probably enough. I'll take it down a little more. I'm actually developing a step where it's smaller up here near the threads than it is by the head. Let's see what it looks like now. There we go, 197. It's really perfect. 204. Close enough. Now I'll drill a hole in the plate that's smaller than the threads, and I'll thread this up through the plate, and it'll be retained with this smooth area in the plate because the hole will be too small. It won't drop back out. That is if I do it right. So you wonder, how are we going to attach our wings to the screw, to the stud? Well, we're going to solder it. And one of the most important rules of soldering is that things be clean. And I want this to look good, so I'm going to get rid of the rust. Out of my toolbox, I have one drawer for soldering gear. Comes my Solder It Micro Jet Torch. Now there are lots of these micro butane torches that you can buy for less than $20, and every single one of them will fail you, and you'll get one or two uses out of them and they'll be broke. I don't remember what this cost, maybe 40 bucks. Solder It is a very well-known, high-quality company. I've had this long enough, this particular model might not be available anymore, but if you've been thinking about buying one, this is one to think about, or a company to think about. Now, I have not used this thing in probably 5 years. Check it out. Very first time. You know, it seems like in life, I've been more upset with myself for spending less than I should have than I have for spending more than I had planned. And good tools is definitely an example of that. Don't spend less than you should. Wait a minute. There we go. We'll preheat this part. Let it do a little cleaning. I think I should get after it with a wire brush. What do you think? What do you think of my choice of tools? Trying to get some wires down in that groove. Okay. Now if you don't solder, pay attention. I'll give you some clues here. This is not a soldering lesson per se, but I'm pretty good at soldering. I can solder a damn battleship together with an electric iron. I don't solder with a flame very often. But the key to soldering, let me get rid of that piece of debris. The key to soldering is everything's clean, fluxed. The button's a little awkward after I bragged on it. And the object that you're soldering has to be hot enough to melt the solder for the solder to take. Putting the solder in the flame, well, of course the solder's going to melt. But that's not the right way to do it. We want the object to be hot enough that it melts the solder so that the solder wets into the metal. And I believe this will be a big enough torch to do this. We've got a big bolt here that's sinking heat away, so if it becomes a problem, I'll get the propane torch out. So what I'm looking for is the metal to melt the solder. There we go. See that? I'm going to keep that centered up. Anytime you move something you're soldering, you want to re-liquefy the solder so you don't end up with a cold joint. Now I can't touch this for a while. I'm going to have to let it cool. And I suppose I can buff the edges of that if I want to make it look a little better. But this will be a nice strong joint. And we're almost done with our wing stud. Homemade wing stud made from junk. I've got a 7/32 bit there, which is about 218. Our fastener is about 242, 243, something like that. So now I need to cut this off. And I think I want about a 1/4 inch above the surface here. After you cut a bolt, you want to sand the threads with the grinder or the sander moving in this direction. Give this a nice lead in. Now, can we actually turn that in there? A little tougher than I thought. Looks like I got it started crooked too. Yeah, I think I better. I don't want to bend my beautifully ground washer wings. 1/4 is 1 tap size. I don't even need to read the side of the tap. Oh, so much easier. So let's go get a camera. There we go. Installed. Put it on the tripod. A washer. My fancy knob that I made. And there we are. Got my camera mounted. Repaired this cheap tripod, which was basically in a junk pile because it wasn't complete. And now I've got an extra tripod to use, especially up on a work surface, a nice small tripod. So there you are. It doesn't take much to get a project done. And yes, I did start with a 3D printer, but I did all of my machining right here on this drill press and with a hacksaw. And anybody can afford one of these. So get out in your shop, get your hands dirty, get something done, get a project off your mind. It'll feel so good.